Morning, everyone. Um, Here is the Noodlers Inc. Boston Safety Pen, and in the background you hear an airplane going to distant lands. I'll wait for it to go away. There it goes away. Anyway, here is a Boston Safety Pen. It is designed by Nathan Tardif. He has copied a design made by the Moore Pen Company, and these pens were designed specifically to be used with India ink, which is permanent. It is waterproof, and it was designed for artists and clerks, court documents and things like that had to be done in permanent ink and could not be watered down, or erased, or somehow obliterated. So permanent ink was the thing. These days, I think its main use would be by artists. Not so much writers, but artists. Anyway, how it works essentially is when the pen is not being used, the nib is retracted and into the barrel, and the barrel is full of ink. So the nib is completely immersed in ink, so it will never dry out. The problem with India inks and permanent inks are they're filled with in some cases, sort of material that makes it both thicker and waterproof, and it would clog, it would dry. If I left this sitting out like this for a week, this would all be dried, and you'd have to take it completely apart to clean it. The same thing if it were put in any normal fountain pen. But a safety pen, the nib retracts into the ink and stays wet. I think once you fill your pen, you have to keep it also filled with ink. That might be a slight flaw, but it just means that you have to have ink ready. You can't run out of ink you can't run out of ink in your bottle at home or in the pen, because then you have to go out and buy a bottle of ink, I guess, to fill it. So, but I have drawn with it, and it has kept up with me. I draw fast. It has kept up with me. There's a little bit of flexibility in the nib that it comes with, which is very nice. It's not a gold nib, it's a stainless steel nib of some sort. And I think, for the most part, it's great. No, it doesn't have a nib that's as fine as this or as broad as that, but it has a nib that's perfectly fine. If I were doing drawings using this pen that were entirely pen work, I may not like it as much, but many times an artist wants to use pen and watercolor or ink wash, and if you use ink wash with regular fountain pen ink, it'll bleed and smear and fade and do all sorts of nastiness that you don't want, or you might not want. Sometimes the effects are quite lovely, but other times you don't want that to happen. So you want a permanent ink that will not bleed. So this ink and this pen are perfect. Nathan, who makes these pens, also makes his own ink, and his inks are bulletproof and all sorts of other proof, and they're a little bit thicker than this. And he says that you have to, if you're using his Noodler's ink in this pen, a certain kind of ink, you have to keep on shutting the pen and shaking it to keep the ink from seizing everything up. And I think that's not very good. It's hard for an artist to stop what they're doing if they're in the middle of some sort of absinthe-inspired sketch or inspired sketch without absinthe. They don't want to stop every 2 minutes and shake the pen and close it up and keep it going. They want to just keep drawing. So this ink and this pen work perfectly together. I draw relatively fast. This pen keeps up. If I draw with any pen more slowly, and especially if I'm applying a lot of pressure, the ink is going to logically, pool up and be a little wetter. So it may take longer for this ink to dry if I draw slowly and there's more ink put down. But I haven't had any problems with it flooding. It all seems to be fine. The only flaw, and I can't blame the inventor of this particular pen with the problem, because it probably existed in the pen that they designed 100 years ago, is when you're pulling this back, you have to be very careful to do it slowly and carefully, because as you're pulling it down, there could be a possibility, if I went fast, of a little drop of ink shooting off out of the top. The same thing happens when you're pushing it up. If you push it up too fast, ink is going to just pour out of the front. You have to go very slowly, because right now the nib and the thing that the nib is connected to, this rod, is below the ink, and you just have to very slowly move it up and put it into place. And it's sort of hard because it's a very tight seal down here. If it wasn't tight, it would leak. So you want to have it be not easy to slide up and down. You have to apply pressure. You just have to do it very carefully. The nib is put in a little collar sort of thing here, and this is on a post, and this slides up and down. The packing thing that holds it all in place is down at the bottom of the pen, and as you move this up and down, this slides up and down in the barrel, and at some point, it seats up against the very top of this thing like that, and it holds it tight right up here. But if you push this too far, too fast, ink can come out. So you just want to do it slowly. Here's the ink level down here, and as this pulls up, ink wants to be up here too. So you just have to do it carefully. And when you're taking it apart, or rather submerging it again, you have to just go slowly for the same reason. So I give it an A+. Now, if I had a time machine and could move forward 5 years or 10 years or even 2 years, is the seal back here going to slowly get looser and maybe cause a leak? I don't know. Is the stainless steel nib going to eventually get sprung? I don't know. I think anything that is relatively new on the market, you're gonna, time will tell. But I think it seems to be fine, and the two quote things that might wear out, the packing or the nib, can presumably be replaced down the road. But between now and then, I think you're going to have great fun with this pen. In terms of the line width, again, it's not, you can write with it upside down, you can write with it forward, you can get a little bit of flexible line to it. Many people who use a pen for watercolor work use the pen just to sort of map out the area that you want to draw later in paint. Other people, draw what looks to be a perfectly finished ink drawing, and then they later on fill it in with colors, which is fine as well. I think if I were to do a regular full ink drawing without color or without ink wash, I might prefer a nib that's a little bit more flexible than this one. Though this one can do a lot, and I could come up with very beautiful drawings. Well, not me, but someone could come up with very beautiful drawings using just this nib with just this variety of range of light stroke to heavier stroke. But this pen isn't necessarily designed for that. It's designed to be used with some sort of water-based watercolor paint or ink wash to go on top of it. So there you have it. I highly recommend it. You can get it online, Noodler's Boston Safety Pen, or you can buy it in Boston at the Bromfield Pen Shop. And I think it retails for $65. I think that's what it cost me. I bought it directly from the manufacturer, directly from Nathan Tardif himself. And I wish I had purchased the one that was clear. They had only a limited number of them, and why I didn't buy that one, I don't know, because you could see how it works. I guess he only had a limited number, and I wanted him to sell those to his favorite people. I mean, not that I'm not his favorite, but there are people that love his inks and love his pens, and I like him and I like his pens, and I'm not a big fan of his inks, I must say. They're a little thicker than I like. I draw very fast, and they don't often keep up with me. This ink does a pretty good job in this pen, so it's a little bit looser, a little faster. So anyway, if you do ink drawing and watercolor, get this pen. You won't regret it.